Well, our first caller today is John from Canada. John, can you hear us okay?
Yes, can you hear me as well?
We can. How can we help you today?
So I kind of got, we've been texting back and forth. We've been separated for about a year. And I applied for child support because our son needs it. And she sent me back a message saying I probably won't have enough money for food if that happens. So I kind of sent her a message saying, I do not want this divorce, but I still wish we could work things out.
Mm-hmm.
But since you don't feel the same way towards our relationship and are determined to continue pursuing the divorce, I need to make sure things are financially balanced for our son.
Mm-hmm.
To have a stable home in both locations is not something that I've decided to do lightly, as I've tried to avoid it over and over. There doesn't seem to be any chance to change the course that you've set forth. Due to that, I need to focus on my future with our son and make sure that things are stable as possible for him. If our financial situation changes in the future, I will not fight you if you want to reassess how things are split, as I truly do want consistency for our son, and that is my only motivation.
Mm-hmm.
What is your views, and what would you recommend? I know it is and isn't smart contact, but it's also acceptance. So I've kind of accepted the situation. But everything since then, she's been angry about doesn't matter. Like, she got a speeding ticket with one of the vehicles, and I got it in the mail. She got kind of upset and angry about this, and it doesn't really matter what it is. It's just anger, and it seems like money's a thrive for all this stuff. So how could I communicate with it, even about our son?
Man, I need to make sure I understand something here. You're asking her for child support, not the other way around. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm asking her because it's like a $70,000 difference because I changed careers. I used to work out of town, and now I work in town.
Okay. And I'm assuming that you have done this through the legal courts there in Canada, that you have asked for that way. Is that correct?
100%.
Okay. And she's angry because you've asked for it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I understand the situation. Now, what is the specific question then that has to go with the situation? What specifically you're asking, my friend?
So how long is this anger going to be? Because it's been on now, starting to go on week 2. No matter what I talk about, it's just like anger, or you're trying to take child support from me, you're screwing up my life, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how could I respond to that? It's better not to respond at all to these things.
Well, it sounds to me like you've been very wise in what you've done so far, because what I heard you say is, and I was pretty sure I heard it clearly, you said that you'd let her know that you don't want the divorce. You'd like to work things out if at all possible, but that you're going to do what you think is best for the child. When we think about whether or not a person can put a marriage back together, or whether a couple, I should say, can put a marriage back together, we talk about pulls and pushes. And there are other things we'll talk about as we go through the program that can help pull a person back toward you. And what we recommend is that you don't do the things that push the other person away from you unless that's something that you need to do for a specific reason. And what I'm hearing you say is that you are doing what she has perceived as a push because you've said, you make $60,000-$70,000 more than I do a year. Therefore, I need you to help me. And so that our children, I don't know if you said child or children, but so that our children.
Just child.
Okay, that our child can have the same thing when with you as with me. And so we suggest that people don't do pushes unless there is a reason to do that push. And this certainly sounds to me like a reasonable motivation, because you want to make sure the child has what he needs or she needs to have, and that's a good thing. Now, if you're asking how long will she be angry, understand that anger is based primarily in pain. People, when they don't get what they want, feel a kind of pain from that. Like, this is what I expected it to be like. This was my anticipation, and now that's not happening, and so that's aggravating me. And as you said, it can be aimed toward you, even if you have nothing to do with it, like the ticket that came. So how long will this last? There's no way to know. It might be rather temporary, and it might last longer than that. But I'm assuming that her anger is based on the fact that she's not getting what she wanted. And because she's not getting what she wanted, she's mad. But you're not going to back off because you're doing what you believe is best for the child, right?
Oh, 100%. He needs consistency in his life.
Okay. And so since you're not going to back off, I don't know why that you should let yourself be too over-concerned about her anger. Because it's like, okay, if the way to placate that, if the way to make her less angry is to back off on the child support, but you're not going to do that. Therefore, this is the consequence. This is what's happening because of your actions, but it's for a good reason. It's worthwhile. It makes sense. Yes, it is a push, but it's a push that makes sense. Does that mean that there's no possibility of ever putting the marriage back together? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that she's really aggravated about this right now. But it could get better. As a matter of fact, it probably will get better with time. I just can't guarantee you that because I don't know her. But if you're saying how long, I don't know how long. If you're saying, do you guys think it makes sense that I did what I did? It makes sense to me. What about you, Kimberly?
I would agree. It's you're never going to go wrong thinking about the well-being of the child. You absolutely have to do that.
So if it goes through a divorce, I'm hearing a lot of people say 2 years after a divorce, usually when people kind of realize, the grass isn't greener on the other side, or however that kind of little saying goes. Do you see stuff like that happen quite often through divorces?
Yes, but I don't know anything about a 2-year period. I've never heard that before. But yes, we see people who finally look around and go, wait a minute. You see, people don't leave what they have unless they believe what they're going to is better. Doesn't mean it is, but it means they believe it is. And so when they finally realize this isn't better, that's when they'll look back toward you. And that's when we teach things like, work on the things that we would call the pulls, the things that would attract the person back to you. And there's a whole lot of things that we teach about that. So if you go to our website, marriagehelper.com, you can see a lot of articles and things there. There's also a lot of videos on YouTube, and it can help you work on those pulls. But I don't know that the 2-year number makes much sense. But yes, when people realize it's not what they think, that's when they tend to reconsider things. Yes. Would you agree, Kimberly?
I would agree.
Okay.
So even trying to do smart contact about our son, just saying, hey, our son has a bruise because daycare kid hit him with a car. She won't even respond to this for like 4 or 5 days later and be like, don't talk to me.
Yeah. Well,
how do you respond to that?
I wouldn't.
Yeah, don't.
I mean, you passed on the information that she needed to have as the mother, and I wouldn't respond to any snarky comment that she makes back or doesn't make back.
Right.
You still do what you believe is the right thing to do, no matter how she acts.
Right.